I have some numbers here that I'd like to share with you. As of right now, today on Tuesday, we are at 27.1 million cases of coronavirus with at least 465,000 deaths. In the world, we are at 106 million cases with at least 2.3 million deaths. Even though we keep on hearing about the fact that the country is going in a downward trajectory of cases and deaths, how come these numbers are still so large? How are you observing them?
So good news is, like you say, the number of daily cases are going under 100,000. That is a very good sign. Also, the number of hospitalizations are getting lower, under 80,000 or between 80 and 100,000. And number of death rates are also going under 3,000. So that is a very good news. However, the bad news is coming from three different countries, three different strain of viruses, one from UK, one from Brazil, and one from South Africa, which has mutated and spread more easily from person to person, which can lead to a newer and more cases in this country. And that is a worrisome for on healthcare resources strain, and also lead to more hospitalization and more deaths in upcoming weeks.
Right, in discussing the variants, I'd like to have a couple of questions on that. Just today we heard South Africa has paused its rollout of AstraZeneca vaccine because of this variant. In South Africa, it's not working that effectively against it. What have you heard about it in the US, and do you see our vaccines ever going on a pause because of these variants?
That is true. That is true regarding AstraZeneca vaccine for sure. However, the good news is Johnson & Johnson vaccination will be applying for the emergency authorization within next few weeks. And I would say by early March, we should have the third vaccine available in this country. So not good news upfront for AstraZeneca vaccine, but the good news is for J&J vaccine in this country.
Dr. Patel, what are these variants exactly doing to the virus?
So these are the mutated virus. So these are different kind of mutations with the virus, which we don't know why is it spreading more easily than the original COVID-19 virus. So these are all speculations right now. More studies, more research is required why this is happening. So it's too early to say this is going to be deadly. It's going to be a new pandemic coming with this new virus. We don't know yet.
But we've heard that it's more transmissible. Your comments?
Yes, these are more easily transmissible and give mild to severe illnesses much more than the regular COVID-19 we saw before.
So what is your recommendation for people right now with these variants going around? I feel that, people are feeling easy right now. Maybe that fatigue is kicking in of COVID-19. What do you have to say to the audience?
Do not get the guards down. We are still in the middle of the pandemic in this country and the world actually. And some of the mitigating strategies must be applied. Public health official guidance such as masks are very effective way to reduce the spread of the virus. Stay 6 feet away, avoid crowded and indoor gatherings, avoid travel, especially airline travel if possible, because you bring the virus from one state to another state. Take flu shot now. That is the one defense we have available right now. And register for COVID vaccine and take it when your turn comes up. I know that there are some challenges with the COVID vaccine in this country, but things are looking a little better than before. Avoid having indoor parties except people you live with. Wash your hands frequently and getting tested, isolating and quarantining. All those things we are telling people since early 2020 still applies in 2021.
Right. And before we discuss more into the vaccines, doctor, I have to ask you, what is your comment on double masking? Dr. Fauci has said that it just adds another protective layer perhaps to you. It hasn't been suggested by the CDC yet, but how are you looking at that?
So masking, facial coverings are always good. There are not enough research for double masking. These are some of the strategies are given by the public health officials based on their experience of the virus. We all should follow that. And hopefully CDC guidance for the school openings and the masking will come up probably this week. This is what I'm hearing.
Right. Let's talk about the vaccines now, doctor. You recently got your first dose of the vaccine as well. Share with us which vaccine have you gotten and how was the experience been for you and what are the side effects so far?
So I received my Pfizer vaccine last Wednesday. So a week last week I received my vaccine. After I received my vaccine in the evening, maybe after 10, 12 hours, I started getting some muscle pain, some body aches, some fatigue, some lousy feeling for at least that overnight I experienced that. And next morning I took some over-the-counter Tylenol and some Motrin, and next morning I started feeling better. I had some soreness in my arm for 48 hours, which is normal. That is normal side effect from the viral vaccine. And I think overall, in my opinion, I think the vaccine was very safe and very effective. I did not get that many complications from the vaccine.
I'm hearing that the second dose, however, causes some more, not complications, but it has a bit more side effects. What could you tell us about that?
So the second dose can create that stimulus response to the immune system. And I think that is most common because now instead of 50-60% effective that vaccine, now it will become 95% effective. So it stimulates your immune system, and some people get sick for a day or two with some fever and some other symptoms. So that is normal in this kind of mRNA vaccine, and I would not discourage anyone from taking the vaccination.
Definitely. How was that experience personally for you, doctor? You know, you've been with us throughout this entire year, giving us so much information on COVID-19 and how to prevent it. How was that personally for you?
So at least I feel a little confident now in if I have to see someone, if I have to go in public places with my mask on, I feel a little confident that I will definitely protect myself. Even if I get sick, I will not get complicated disease course. So I think that is the good thing I'm looking at after getting my vaccine. But like I said before, we can't take our guards down. We have to follow the public health recommendations right now. And as we know that until we reach that 70-80% mark of people getting the vaccine in this country, developing the herd immunity, we are not off the hook yet.
Right. Let's talk about this Johnson & Johnson vaccine, doctor. We've heard it's only one dose, and they may get, again, the emergency authorization from the FDA. What more insight do you have into it? And also, one dose vaccine that could really change the rollout game.
Definitely, J&J vaccine one dose is going to be a huge game changer for this country, because I think that will not only is effective about 70-88% effective, but is one dose, the storage and other logistics is very much within the control of the local pharmacies or local healthcare system compared to what we are going through with Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which requires the suboptimal temperatures. So I think J&J one dose is going to be a huge thing. One thing I would like to add regarding the vaccination is we are right now close to 60 million doses distributed to this country and only 43 million administered. So if we are going this rate daily from, and I'm hearing this last couple of weeks, we have 1.5 to 1.8 million doses are given. We require about 500 million doses. So if we go this route, we will have until at least end of July to reach 300 million people or 250 million people requires to get the vaccine. So we need to increase this current rate to 3 million per day to finish this by end of July.
What do you think the new administration could do right now, doctor? I know President Biden has promised 100 million vaccines, in his first 100 days, but what else could they do right now, according to you?
So ramping up the production, that's number one. We lack the national healthcare infrastructure. We don't have that in this country. And I think this is what we need, the resources, the personnel to give the vaccinations, the healthcare personnel, the nurses, the United States National Guard. And I think that is happening in few states already. But I think we need more. We need more vaccines, more availability in the local community. Local pharmacy needs to get this vaccine because they are the one knows their patient load, patient who are the patients at risk of medical disease. So those are the people needs to get the vaccine first, and the local pharmacy going to be the biggest resources for this effort.
And we're also hearing, going back to the variants and the vaccine, that some companies are trying to work on these boosters for the vaccine. Could you give us some more insight into that?
So at this time, it may require a booster by this fall, depending on how this new mutating variant goes. If this becomes a newer virus, newer strain virus, which requires a special vaccine, all of us, whoever received the vaccine now, we need to get the vaccine before fall. So that is going to be a huge challenge again for this country. If we are not finished with the first vaccine, how are we going to implement the second booster shot for other people? So that is going to be a challenge for this country.
You know, while we are discussing vaccines, I have to ask you, there's a huge debate right now going about school teachers and schools reopening. We understand that it's very important for, you know, our children to go back to school for their development and so much more, also to help the parents that are also working and don't know what to do with their children. How are you as a medical professional looking at this? The CDC director said that the schools could open up without vaccinating the teachers, but is that really safe to do right now?
So unless your community has community outspread going on right now, the schools are the lowest possibility of getting the virus for the kids. Okay, so in situations where there are low number of cases in the community, schools can be safely reopened. The only caveat to that is the teachers who are at risk with chronic medical conditions should be vaccinated to avoid them getting complicated disease course. So in my opinion, schools can be safely reopened. The CDC guidelines is coming tomorrow regarding the school reopening, vaccination, and all other criterias. And I think the community spread is low. Those cities can be safely reopened in a definitely full-time school for the kids.
And what about vaccinating children, doctor? You know, right now, I think the youngest we see is 16 and above for one of the vaccines. Do you see any research going into getting children vaccinated?
So both children, pregnant women, and immunocompromised individuals are being currently in the stages of clinical trials. And hopefully by end of March, early April, we should have some data for efficacy and safety. And once that is proven, I think all of the kids and the immunocompromised and the pregnant female can be vaccinated safely at that point. Right now, we don't know how safe is that, so that's why we are holding it off.
Another topic that's also up for debate today is domestic air travel, doctor. The administration may be requiring a negative COVID test in order to travel domestically. How important do you think that could be to curb the disease?
This could have been done long back. I think we dropped the ball earlier last year. We could have saved a lot of lives and reduced number of cases, and we could have ended this pandemic earlier. But we failed to do so, and I think that is a good idea to have some kind of documentation of negative testing or vaccination record. That will definitely help.
Do you think people from outside the country, you know, we should, especially from the areas where the cases are truly surging, do you think we should have a requirement for perhaps a vaccination before they enter into this country?
Either the vaccination or the negative testing is acceptable in this kind of scenario, because the vaccination itself is a challenge for many countries.
Right.
Countries like India will take a longer time to get the vaccine for all. So I think alternatively, it could be a negative testing should be enough for those people to travel.
Another news that we're getting, doctor, is the fact that young adults could be possible for the continuous surge of cases right now. People in the age of 20 to 40. How are you looking at that? Do you think they could be responsible for the current cases?
Absolutely, because this has been a debate and discussion for many months now. And finally, last fall, we came up with some data that young individuals carry the virus, spread the virus, and themselves become sick from this virus and get complicated course of disease. So nobody's off the hook with this virus, and we all should take the similar precautions and take the vaccine when it is available to them.
What about South Asians at high risk? I know I always ask you this question, but just following up on, I guess, the last question, what are you concerned about with the cases of, South Asians that are at high risk, and what kind of advice do you have for them, while they wait for their vaccine?
I think, in my opinion, they should get the vaccination as soon as possible. I know there are challenges we're going through right now, but hopefully by next week, the community pharmacies should have the vaccine, and they should concentrate on their patients who get their medications from them for their diabetes, for their hypertension, for their cardiac issues, for renal disease, pulmonary disease. Those people should be called to get the vaccine at the local pharmacy. I think that will definitely help reducing the number of complications, especially for South Asians. And those people who don't have resources of their cell phone or their email access, and how to register, and when to call them, or who to call them, or how to register themselves to get the vaccine center. So all those things are very much a challenge for some of the South Asians, some of the people in the lower socioeconomic areas, and minorities overall, in my opinion.
Right. Right now, if I was to ask you, what's your biggest worry, doctor, what would you say?
My biggest worry right now is the newer strain coming, the mutations, and taking the guard down and not following the public health guidance. And this will create a second wave, or a third wave, or the fourth wave of this COVID-19 cases in this country.
Right. And do you think our hospitals right now, which were overwhelmed just, a month ago, do you think they can handle, the surge due to these variants? How worrisome is that situation?
That is the huge challenge for the healthcare infrastructure, healthcare professionals, the hospitals, the institutions, where we see this kind of surge in cases, and when we lose the personnel of, in fact, the healthcare personnel getting disease themselves, and providing the care to others. So I think those are most common challenges in this kind of situations.
Right. Well, it was so great having you here with us on ITV Gold, Doctor. I would love for you to give one last message to our audience.
My last message to everyone: masks are very effective. Keep social distance, avoid large gatherings, indoor gatherings, avoid travel if possible, take the flu shot, register for COVID vaccine,